Have you ever been forced by your own family to pay for something completely unreasonable, and threatened to be cut off if you refused? Imagine working your entire life to build everything on your own, only for your parents and little sister to turn their backs on you over a prom dress. Sounds insane, right? But that's exactly what happened to me. And from that moment, I uncovered a truth far more shocking, a secret my family had been hiding from me for years. My name is Madeline Hart, but everyone calls me Maddie. I'm 34 years old, living in Aurora, Colorado, working as a brand strategist. People who see me from the outside think I've got it together, a stable job, a small condo, a car that's paid off, and a savings account that I built myself. What they don't see is the shadow that's followed me my whole life, my family and their endless demands. It all came crashing down one Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of a presentation at work, adrenaline pumping, when my phone buzzed across the conference table. Normally I ignore it, but something about the vibration made me glance down. One text. From my younger sister, Kayla. Send me $2,800 for prom. Now. I nearly dropped my pen. $2,800, for a single night. I typed back, my hands shaking. No. Earn it yourself. Minutes later, my phone lit up again. This time it was my mother. Pay for her prom or don't bother calling yourself family. And then my father. Do the right thing, Maddie. The right thing. My ears rang. To them, the right thing always meant one thing, pay up. That night, I sat in my condo, replaying it all. I realized this wasn't new. This was the story of my entire life. I grew up in Grand Junction, Colorado, the oldest daughter of Denise and Ron Hart. When I was 16, I was already bussing tables at a diner, stuffing dollar bills into a jar under my bed to pay for textbooks. My parents had Kayla late in life, their miracle baby, and from the moment she arrived, she was the center of everything. Kayla got the birthday parties, the new clothes, the trips to ski resorts. When I asked for $50 to go on a school trip, Mom told me it was a luxury we couldn't afford. But for Kayla, there was always money. Always excuses. Always indulgence. By the time I turned 18, it was clear, I was expected to fend for myself. My parents praised my independence, but really, it was neglect dressed up as pride. Meanwhile, Kayla grew up pampered, spoiled, believing the world owed her everything. I learned to survive. I worked double shifts in college, lived in cramped apartments, carried secondhand books taped together at the spine. At 24, I finally landed a marketing job in Denver. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Over the years I climbed the ladder, bought my own condo, built a life without their help. And still, they found ways to take. 4 years ago, during one of Mom's tearful calls about emergency bills, I opened a joint bank account for them. Just to cover basics, I told myself. Groceries, utilities, maybe a medical bill. I set up transfers, thinking I was protecting them. Thinking I was being a good daughter. But I started noticing things. Mom's new jewelry. Kayla's designer clothes. A California trip I wasn't invited on. I brushed it off, told myself I was imagining things. After all, family comes first, right? Now, staring at Kayla's text demanding $2,800 for prom and my parents threatening to disown me if I didn't pay, I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. This wasn't just about a dress. This was about power. Control. About the role I'd been forced into my entire life, not daughter, not sister, but bank account. That night, as I lay awake, one thought burned in my chest, something bigger is going on. And I need to find out what. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd even poured my first cup of coffee. Kayla's name flashed across the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her tone was sharp, already filled with anger. Why are you being so selfish, Maddie? It's prom. Everyone else's parents pay for their kids' big night. You're ruining this for me. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. You're 18, Kayla. Plenty of kids get part-time jobs, babysit, flip burgers, mow lawns. If you want a dress and a limo, you can earn it. There was a pause, then a scoff dripping with contempt. You don't understand. I deserve this. The line went dead. She hung up. Just like that. I stood in my kitchen, staring at the silent phone, fury buzzing in my veins. Deserve? What had I ever been given that I didn't work for? I thought back to high school, when I begged Mom for $50 to join a school trip. She shook her head, saying we couldn't afford luxuries. But for Kayla, luxuries were the standard. By noon, she'd escalated. Another voicemail appeared. When I pressed play, her voice dripped with manipulation. Mom, Dad, Maddie's impossible. Tell her to pay. She's ruining everything. She hadn't even realized she was recording herself pleading to them, on my voicemail. I could picture it, her crocodile tears, Mom rubbing her back, Dad shaking his head. And right on cue, the texts from my parents arrived. Mom. Pay for your sister's prom or don't bother calling yourself family. Dad. Do the right thing, Maddie. My chest tightened. The right thing. As if the thousands I'd already handed over weren't enough. As if all the years of carrying myself through school and work counted for nothing. I typed back to Mom. Why is prom worth disowning me? No reply. To Dad. Explain this. Nothing. Their silence screamed louder than words. They didn't want to explain. They wanted control. I shoved my phone aside, trying to focus on work, but every time my email dinged, my heart leapt. Then, late that afternoon, a different kind of notification popped up, one from the bank. Large transaction alert, $5,000 withdrawal. The breath caught in my throat. That account was meant for necessities, bills, groceries, emergencies. Not for thousands disappearing overnight. My hands shook as I opened the details. The money had gone out that morning. No description. No explanation. I dialed Kayla immediately. What's going on with the account? I demanded. Her voice was nonchalant, almost amused. I don't know. Ask Mom and Dad. Don't play dumb with me, I snapped. $5,000 is gone. Where did it go? She laughed, a short, cruel sound. You're paranoid, Maddie. Stop being so dramatic. It's probably nothing. And she hung up again. I stood frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, the dial tone echoing in my head. Something was terribly wrong. This wasn't about prom anymore. This wasn't about a spoiled teenager wanting a limo and a designer dress. This was bigger. For the first time, I let myself think the unthinkable. What if they've been draining me for years? What if the account I set up has been nothing but their piggy bank? The thought made me nauseous. My stomach turned as memories flickered through my mind, Mom's sparkling bracelets, Kayla's shopping sprees, their sudden, family trip to California I wasn't invited to. I couldn't trust them to tell me the truth. I needed answers. Real ones. So I pulled up my contacts and typed a new message, not to my family, but to someone I trusted. Ellen, can we meet tonight? It's urgent. Ellen Ward was more than a colleague. She was a friend. And, more importantly, she was a lawyer. If anyone could help me uncover what was really happening with that account, it was her. That evening, I drove across town, my heart pounding, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. By the time I sat down in Ellen's office, the decision was made. I wasn't going to let my family gaslight me anymore. I was going to see the truth, whatever it cost me. Ellen's office was quiet except for the hum of her computer. She closed the door behind me, set down 2 mugs of coffee, and motioned for me to sit. Her tone was calm but firm. Okay, Maddie. Tell me everything from the top. I laid it out, the prom demand, my parents' threats, the mysterious $5,000 withdrawal. My voice cracked halfway through, but Ellen just listened, her fingers already moving across her keyboard. Let's log into the joint account, she said. You still have access. I nodded, sliding my phone over. Within moments, rows of transactions filled the screen. My chest tightened. The numbers blurred together, but Ellen leaned closer, scrolling slowly so I could see every line. $1,200, designer boutique in Denver. $850, jewelry store. $2,500, event planner services. $4,700, travel agency, Los Angeles. $950, luxury spa and wellness center. These weren't groceries or medical bills. They were indulgences, luxury stacked on luxury. Ellen arched an eyebrow. Maddie, this is just the last 3 months. My stomach turned. She scrolled back further. More charges. High-end restaurants. Hotel stays. Electronics. Thousands upon thousands bleeding out, month after month. How much in total? I whispered, barely able to form the words. Ellen tapped a few keys, then turned the laptop so I could see. A bold figure glowed at the bottom. $103,672.19. The air left my lungs. Over $100,000, gone. I gripped the edge of the chair, my hands trembling. They've been stealing from me for years. Ellen didn't soften it. Yes. They have. I pressed my palms over my eyes, my chest heaving. I thought of every late night at the office, every raise I'd fought for, every time I told myself the exhaustion was worth it. And all along, they were draining me. Look at this, Ellen murmured, clicking on the most recent transfer. The $5,000 from that morning. This didn't go to a store. It went to pay off a credit card. Whose? My voice was barely audible. She clicked again. My stomach lurched as the name appeared on the screen. Kayla Hart. It was her card. A balance of nearly $12,000, payments being pulled directly from my account. She's not even 19, I choked out. How does she even have a card like that? Likely co-signed by your parents, Ellen said grimly. And then they set up your account as the payment source. Classic financial manipulation. I felt like the room was spinning. This wasn't just Kayla being spoiled. This was deliberate. Orchestrated. But Ellen wasn't done. She opened another file, mortgage records, loan documents, debt statements tied to my parents. Brace yourself, she warned. My eyes widened at the numbers. They'd refinanced their house twice. Maxed out multiple credit cards. Taken personal loans. Their total debt now stood at over $500,000. $500,000. The number echoed in my head like a death sentence. They're drowning, I whispered. And they've been using me as their life raft. Ellen met my eyes, her expression steady. Exactly. This isn't just carelessness, Maddie. This is financial abuse. The words hit hard, slicing through my denial. Abuse. I'd always told myself I was helping, that family comes first. But the reality was ugly. I'd been exploited, my future siphoned away so they could live beyond their means. Tears stung my eyes, hot and bitter. I worked for every dollar. Every late night, every missed holiday, every time I forced myself out of bed when I could barely stand. And they stole it. Ellen placed a hand gently on mine. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're the victim here. And you can stop it. Her words rang in my ears, you can stop it. For years, I believed saying no would make me heartless. But what about them? Wasn't it heartless to treat me like a walking ATM? I wiped my face, anger replacing the tears. Tomorrow, I'm shutting down that account. No more transfers. No more bailouts. Ellen nodded firmly. That's the right call. But be ready. They'll fight back. I swallowed hard, the fire in my chest burning brighter than the fear. They've taken enough already. They don't get to take my peace anymore. For the first time, I felt something like freedom stirring inside me. Tomorrow, I would confront them. Tomorrow, I would end this. I drove to my parents' house that night with a folder of papers on the seat beside me. My hands were clammy on the steering wheel, my heart pounding like it wanted to break free. I had rehearsed what I was going to say 100 times, but still, when I stepped onto the porch, it felt like my knees might give out. Mom opened the door first, her face tight, already bracing for a fight. Dad stood behind her with his arms crossed. Kayla was on the couch, her phone glowing in her hands, pretending not to care. I walked in, set the folder down on the coffee table, and said quietly, "We need to talk." Mom folded her arms. "Is this about the prom money?" "Maddie, you're making a scene." I opened the folder and slid the bank statements across the table. "This isn't about prom. This is about over $100,000 taken from my account. This is about Kayla's credit card being paid with money I worked for. This is about years of lies." The silence that followed was heavy, sharp. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom's lips trembled before she snapped, "We did this for family. For Kayla's future. Why are you being so cold?" Something inside me finally broke. Cold. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I cared when I skipped my own school trip so you could buy her dresses. I cared when I worked through college while you sent her on vacations. I cared every time I bailed you out of your emergencies. But this isn't caring anymore. This is using me. This is stealing. Kayla shifted uncomfortably, her voice small for once. "It's not that much." I turned to her, my throat tight. "Not that much? Do you have any idea what it's like to drag yourself out of bed before sunrise, to cry in the bathroom because you're so exhausted you can barely breathe, and to know every dollar you're killing yourself for is being spent on someone else's shopping sprees?" Dad slammed his hand down. "Watch your tone. We're your parents. You owe us." I stood up, gathering the papers back into the folder. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. "No. Parents are supposed to protect their kids, not drain them dry. I don't owe you anything. Not anymore." As I reached for the door, Mom's voice cracked behind me. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I paused, my hand on the knob. For the first time in years, I felt calm. "Then I guess this is goodbye." And I left. It's been months since that night. I blocked their numbers, filtered their emails, and built a wall between me and their chaos. Word trickles through relatives: my parents lost their house in bankruptcy, Kayla is working a mall job. A part of me aches for them. But a bigger part of me feels something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not carrying anyone else's weight. I'm not just surviving. I'm finally living, on my own terms. And in the quiet that followed, I realized there were lessons burned into me by this whole nightmare. Lessons I'll never forget. First, family is not a financial obligation. Love isn't measured in deposits or transfers. If it comes with conditions and demands, it's not love. Second, boundaries are self-care. If you don't draw the line, someone else will cross it again and again until there's nothing left of you. Third, bank statements don't lie. Words can be twisted, promises can be broken, but the numbers always reveal the truth. Fourth, unconditional sacrifice breeds entitlement. The more you give without limits, the more people expect, until your help becomes their habit. And fifth, real love comes with responsibility. It means learning to stand on your own, not leaning forever on someone else's back. Those are the truths I carry now. But here's what I wonder, and what I want to ask you. If you got a message saying, pay or you're no longer family, how would you respond? Where do you think the line is between helping someone and being exploited by them? Have you ever felt like your worth to family was reduced to a bank account? And if you were in my place, would you have cut ties completely, or would you have chosen another path? I've made my choice. I know it saved me. But what about you?